listening to chapter 1, where Arjun is finally um, confronting Krishna that please take my chariot between the two armies, and then why I would want to kill anyone else. Now, today, he is going to give an argument, a mind blowing argument to Krishna that, O maintainer of all living entities, what pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Even though they may be aggressors, sin will certainly come upon us if we slay them. So he's saying, even though they are not good people, still, if I kill them, I will get bad karma. See how much misinformation everyone has. He also has this. He doesn't know what is right and wrong. Hence, it does not behoove us to kill your own cousins, the son of Dhritarashtra, and friends. O Madhav, how can we hope to be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Very genuine question, but one must understand how much of agyanta is in this, how much of irrelevant information he has already fed to his mind that he thinks this is wrong. Yeah, their thoughts are overpowered by greed. See, he understands why they're doing it. He has compassion, empathy, that he understands why the son of Dhritarashtra are doing this. They are overpowered by greed and they see no wrong in annihilating their relatives. For them, it's just ordinary thing, killing their own, family members or reckoning treachery upon friends. Yet, O Janardhan, why should we, who can clearly see the crime in killing our kindred, not turn away from this sin? So now he is saying they are blind. They don't see that I am their relative. They won't hesitate to kill me because they are blind with greed. They have anger and all those things. But I can see I don't have any greed. Then why should I be the one killing them? Imagine there's an enemy in front of him and they won't hesitate even for a second to kill him, but he is in a big conundrum, confused why I should kill my own family. When a dynasty is destroyed, its tradition gets vanquished and the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion, which means purity loses. If I do some of this wrong, if I kill my own family members, I'm actually doing adharma. This is what he feels. Now, I want here Krishna will tell him later why he is being delusional. This is the next first few shloka of the next chapter. First thing he's going to say, you're being delusional because you are so attached to these people, you don't want to kill them. They gave you such suffering, yet you have this compassion for them. You are worried, you're caring for them. This is all wrong knowledge. Same, it's in all of us. We think we know what is right. We think we know what is right, what is wrong. We know how to, make decisions. We know answers to all the questions. But technically, you only know theoretical things. If you're in spirituality, you only know theory because you never experienced it. If you never experienced it, how would you know what reality feels like? You don't know. Only someone who has experienced it can tell you this is right and wrong. Yeah. If you're in the world with all the worldly pleasures, there you are constantly experiencing. Even in the sansar, you see how there are speakers, coaches, guests, there are conferences. What is happening there? People are sharing their experiences to others. What I experience in any industry, I am going on now sharing it to others in the means of conferences or some of the other mechanism. This is what a guru is also doing, sharing their own experience. Now, Arjun is talking utter nonsense. He's being too kind. There has to be a balance. Here in your day to day life, when you face these kind of situations, someone who is extremely evil, someone who is not nice, I do say that you need to forgive them. But on the outward, how do you have to act with them? That cannot be same. You cannot be behaving the same way to someone who is kind to you and someone who's not kind to you. It's not fair. It's not fair to the person who is kind to you, because what's his deal? I mean, why are you being exactly same to the other person? Similarly, here he wants to save these people. What would happen if he saves them? This is a very big dharam sankat. Today I actually made a couple of videos on that. This is called dharam sankat. When you are confused what is the right thing to do, dharma, you don't know what is a dharma, and you're confused, this is dharam sankat in your day to day life. I gave an example today that made a video, and gave an example that, imagine you like this girl, yeah, and your friend also like this girl, but you found out that this girl actually likes your friend, and she comes and tell you, okay, now there are two things happening inside of you. Listen carefully, this is dharma fighting inside of you. Two things are happening inside of you. One, you want to tell this girl, my friend does not like you, he hates you, he says all these wrong things about you, you know, lie to her so that either you can get her or you can give it a go, or no one gets. Or you can just simply tell her that, oh, you like my friend also likes you, you both can, get together and maybe get married and whatnot. That is the dharma. The second one is the right thing to do, but it's so hard. It's so hard because you cannot put yourself behind. You cannot put yourself, you become so selfish. That is why many times following dharma is hard. You need to keep yourself aside. Here, Arjun, all about himself. Oh, my family, I don't want to kill them, this, that. It's not about you. It's not about you. 100 kids of Dhritarashtra are actually hurting so many people. Universe wants them out. Its time is up. Their karmas are over, time is up, they need to leave. By doing all of this, Arjun is making it about him. It's not about him. He's just a medium through which this is all happening. When you make it about yourself, dharma becomes hard. It's tough. The right thing to do may not always be right for you. I mean to say, may not be always in your favor. That is why it is so hard to do. And you face this on a day to day basis. Small incidents. If one of your friends, is a very simple example, one of your friends come and they are backbiting about your another friend who is actually more closer to you, but you don't want to spoil this friendship. So what you do, you agree with it. Yeah, yeah, okay, yes, sometimes she does that, or sometimes he's like this. You So because you don't want to spoil this relationship, you are willing to do this negative thing about your friend, backbiting. This is adharma. These are all things, small things you're doing on a daily basis because they are inconvenient for you. That's what it is. Right now, it's inconvenient for Arjun to kill, his family members. He's saying, I will have guilt of a lifetime. Who kills their family and then it is becomes part of irreligion. And later he says, with this vice, O Krishna, the women of the family become immoral. With this, the women become immoral, and immorality of the woman is actually unwanted. And then unwanted progenies are born. More bad people are born further. See how he is convincing Krishna that he's right. Here he has forgotten that these people has actually almost nirvastra taken advantage of Draupadi, his wife, in the middle of the courtroom. He has forgotten this. At this moment, he is forgetting everything. He will be reminded. This is why whatever you all have inside of you, I would like to hear it, because otherwise I don't hear it, I cannot clarify it. Whatever wrong knowledge you people have inside of you, it won't be fixed. Even now, if you're listening to me, if you don't tell me what you think, based on your judgment, what you heard from me, because there is a filter in the middle, and that filter is your mind. What I'm saying is not exactly going inside of you. There is a filter. That filter is your mind, which is based on your past experiences, assumptions, your own desires, your own wishful thinking. So it has all this, coding inside. So my words go, it does the coding, and you pick what you like, or you pick what makes sense to you. So basically, you're not listening to me. You're just listening what you want to listen. When you tell me that, and I tell you, have you picked the right thing or you're picking the wrong thing? That is why it is a conversation. Guru talks, Shishya listens, Shishya talks, Guru talks. It's a conversation. Then only one can take out the wrong seeds of knowledge inside of you. And it's not one day process, every day you're hearing some things, morning till night. Lot of things have been gone in this filter. What they are going, who you are sharing it to, I don't know. You have this perceptions, images created of people, of yourself, so many layers, and so many layers to tear it down, and the time is not there. You think you have an infinite amount of time to find yourself. You don't. A million layers are on top of you, and there is no time. What if today you're dead? What if tomorrow you never wake up? Then what? So Arjun is completely delusional right now, and he doesn't want to kill his friends and family. There's a similar story on this. We'll go a little bit later on that. So how he's explaining, an increase in unwanted children results in hellish life, both for the family and for those who destroy for the family. See how his mind is scaring him right now, telling him the future, if you kill them, then the family gets impure, so impure children, future whole life is ruined, deprived of sacrificial offerings. All this karma is ahead of him. Though the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition thus give rise to unwanted progeny, a variety of social and family welfare activities are ruined. That's what he cares about. He's not thinking about how much these people are hurting others. This is when you are attached, when you are in ego, when you are in self, you think everything is about you. It's not about you. You're just part of the puzzle. Does it make sense to all of you? O Janardhan, I have heard from the learned that those who destroy family, traditions, dwell in hell for an indefinite period of time. God is standing next to him and he's telling to fight. And he's thinking of what? He's thinking of some textbook where it has written, if you hurt your family, you will go to hell in the fire, blah, blah, blah. This is what happens with each and every one of you. You're sitting here, I am telling you, or a live guru is telling you, not me, someone else also, is telling you this is right, this is wrong. But you would actually believe a million-year old Vedas or textbook because it was written that way. That is also some guru talking. And if you were present at that time, you wouldn't listen to them also. You know, if you were present when the Vedas were written, you wouldn't be listening to them also. You'll be like, what's the proof? What's the logic behind this? Now, after so many centuries, you see, oh, the book is written so many years back. There is logic. Now, suddenly, it makes the source of truth. Do not believe anyone, believe your experience. Truth can only be experienced. No one can tell you in words. Anyone sharing in words is half, unless experienced yourself. You cannot copy someone's journey. People want to know like how all big saints have crossed this. It's good curiosity, but you cannot copy what Buddha did. You cannot copy what Jesus did. You cannot copy what anyone else did. You have your own journey, and that will be written into a book. Similar thing happened with Swami Vivekanand. While he was going to go to the parliament for his this speech in Chicago. Before that, he was sitting in Kanyakumari, exhausted, uncertain, and close to giving up. See, this is what mind does. Vikalp gives you vikalp before something good is going to happen. So mind is going to play trick. So Vivekanand, such a big saint, is going to go Chicago for the speech that's going to become world famous. Imagine, before that, what's happening? He's sitting Kanyakumari on a rock, confused what his words are. He wondered whether I should even go. What is the point? Who was he to speak for a nation? Perhaps it was better to remain silent. Full of doubt, self doubt is coming on him. Who am I to address my nation? Should I even go? What's the point of all of this? This is all self doubt arising in him before things are coming. Then a fisherman passed by, looked at him, and said, Swamiji, why is a strong man like you, sitting like a defeated one? Mere fisherman saw him and said, Swamiji, why a strong man like you is sitting like a defeated one? Immediately, this is what self awareness gives you. Immediately, his words shook Vivekanand. He said, these are not ordinary words. I have given up before even the battle has begun. Before he has even went, he is giving up. And this is nothing but fear masking in the form of surrender. See, now he doesn't need a guru because he is so self aware. He has done his clarity with his master. Years with his master, he has done the clarity. He has been in a practice of himself. When put down, he knows to identify when it is my fear, when it is the truth. He's able to identify that. That's it. This is what self awareness is. Right now, all of you cannot. You cannot identify where your fears are, where your spirituality is. The lines are so mixed together. You cannot, even if you say you can, they are wrong. They're mostly wrong because you haven't done clarity first. You need to clear yourself with a master, share, communicate. This is what I think. What is this right? I have believed this for so and so years. Is this correct? How would you know? You never cleared. So imagine Swami Vivek. I love to share these negatives of saints so that I want you all to know it's okay to have these thoughts because they also have them. Such big saints in history, they also face these struggles. It's not a new thing. Nothing is new under the sun. Everything has happened before. There is a solution for everything. So, at the end of this, alas, how strange it is that we have set our mind to perform this great sin. Imagine he's saying this to God who wants to do this war, believing Vedas and Garud Puran over Krishna himself standing there. Right now, he doesn't think he's God because if he was, he wouldn't be saying these words. How strange it is that we have set our mind to perform this great sin with horrifying consequences, driven by the desire for kingly pleasures. His intention is pure. You see, this is what a master sees. Even though he's talking nonsense, even though he's attached, even though he's completely into the world, but his intentions are pure because he doesn't want the kingly, all this kingship and everything. We are intent on killing our own kingsmen. It would be better if the weapon in hand, the son of Dhritrash, kill me unarmed and unresting on the battlefield. He's saying, let Dhritarashtra's son kill me without my weapon. And he put his bow and arrows down, sank in the seat, and his mind is in distress and grief. This is what happens with all of us. Every situation comes, you haven't even realized how to fight, what to say, things to do. Before that, you have given up. In your mind, you have given up. And this happens all the time. Smallest situation to big hurdles. This is lack of self confidence, lack of self love, lack of understanding who you are. You don't want to even fight because you don't know who you are. Right now, Arjun also doesn't know who he is. Krishna has to tell him, you're Atma, you're this, you're that, you are Arjuna, conqueror of sleep. He's going to say these egoistic words to him in the next chapter, that a man with such caliber talking like this. It's so pity. I feel pity for you because your mind is full of attachment. Same is the case with all of you. When some things happen, we sulk ourselves within our mind. First battle is lost here, then everywhere else. Outside has not even started. Inside, you have lost. Your own thoughts are killing you. And this happens to everyone. You just need to realize it. You become aware of it so you can see this is happening and then you can just dismiss it. It's that simple.